G'day everyone and welcome back to Derriere Farms, where we continue our anniversary coverage of Farming Simulator 22 with a look at, well, the most profitable productions. The other day we looked at what are the best ones to get you up and running and get you started. And don't mind me, I just picked up my permit from the fire department. But I figured today we would look at the rest of the productions and see how profitable they are. Now, I'm rather stuck like I was base game, and I'll go into that in a minute, because I'm having a really hard time determining it. Base game wise, it was really hard to figure out, again, what the most profitable production was. The same with the Platinum Edition. In the base game, it turns out probably your most profitable production was the BGA. Yes, it cost you a lot of money to buy, but you could make money from it, just like the lumber mill, by selling to it, building up your income source, and then purchasing the BGA. And then you could still process silage and make a really good income. Plus, you had all the other byproducts. You had the digestate. You could sell your manure, you could sell slurry, you could sell silage to the BGA, and each of those gave you a pretty good income. And then you had a free source of manure for your fields for arable farming. Unfortunately, there's no BGA, there's no arable farming to speak of on this map. If you've missed it, you haven't really looked yet, there are 1, 2, 3, and three fields, and you could turn these two into fields if you wanted to. But that's you're not gonna make a huge amount of money. This really is a lumber map, and like I said, there's no BGA, so you can't go into the silage business. You could grow soybeans, but wait for it, you are going to need those fields for something else, and we will also go into that later on. So, where am I going to make my money, you ask? We talked about this in the last video, Productions Part 1, and I have to say, based on the fact that the input's free, the absolute best production you are going to find is where is it? The iron furnace. Yes, it costs you $150,000 to buy. It is not cheap, but it is cheaper than the lumber mill. Although you can make a lot of money selling to the lumber mill. Just try and avoid buying from the Southern Lumber Mill because, well, it's expensive. It's good in a pinch if you don't have access to the Northern Lumber Mill, but it is expensive. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the fact that planks will fetch you about $4,000 for a pallet. That's pretty decent income. Long planks only fetch about, well, 5, 6. So I was going to say 1,500 to 2,000 more, and they require roughly 2/3 more materials. So proportionally, they sell for about the same price. So if and when you own a lumber mill, you're definitely worth that. So let's bear in mind those costs of let's say 4,000 and 6,000 when we look at some of the other productions. Okay, so an armoire, that's pretty decent. But an armoire requires long planks, so you need to own some sort of lumber mill in one shape, way, or form, and you need to own the metal furnace. because it requires 25 metal to make an armoire. It's a decent output, 166, but your initial investment both in the lumber mill and the iron furnace is going to be a lot. So armoires are fairly expensive to produce. And if we go back to what they're worth $7,000. So it's going to take you a long time to recoup the cost, not just of the factory for the armoires, the furniture factory. It's going to take you a while to recoup the cost of a lumber mill or purchase lumber, and it's going to take you a while to recoup the cost of the furnace. So just bear that in mind. Barrels again. Barrels are even worse.
He might have also said.
Where are the barrels? Here are the barrels. They only require 50 long planks and 25 to give you 340. But again, you've got the investments in those other two productions before you can really consider on a balance sheet that you're making money. Bathtubs. What's a bathtub worth? 6,000. So it's a slightly better bet, but it requires more material. So I would say anything from the furniture factory or the barrel factory that requires metal is worth doing, but only down the road. You want to hold off on those. Chairs. And tables. Those look pretty good. Where are they? Chairs and tables. And I had all this written down on a spreadsheet, but my computer rebooted and it got lost. So we'll look at chairs. Chairs are $4,000 to $6,000 roughly. A pallet of planks you can get $4,000 from. 120 planks only turns into, 75 to 125, so it's not bad for chairs. And tables, wish this wasn't alphabetical. And tables are 7,000. So I would say tables and chairs are probably worthwhile doing. But remember to turn your other productions off. So let's go back to, some of our other productions. The flooring tiles, that one's actually pretty good because just a regular pallet of planks turns into 180 flooring shingles. $5,000. So you're making it, opportunity wise, if you sold the pallet, you're making $4,000. If you sell the pallet of floor tiles, slightly higher production rate, you're making $6,000. Like I said, I wish I still had my spreadsheet because I kind of averaged everything out. But again, it's really hard because you have to take into account seasonal price fluctuations. So just like the base game, a certain product may really be horrible in December, but it's going to rock in July. Kind of like clothing in the base game. A catch there with clothing. I don't know if I want to touch that. Again, you have to look at your opportunity costs. You need to pay for this farm. You need to pay for the sheep. You need to produce the wool. You need to take the wool to the spinnery. So by the time you've purchased all your inputs, your return on investment for clothing, while it's very high, it will take you a long time to pay off what you initially purchased. flooring tiles, shingles. Shingles are worth it. The art accessory factory. This is the one I'm also having a hard time with too. It's a decent return. If you look at the production recipe, 64 to 200 for an art easel. And of course we have to scroll up to an easel is 3,000. So one pallet is roughly giving you 2 pallets of easels. It's a decent return on investment. Now, let's look at the pet accessories factory. Birdhouse isn't bad. Out of all 3, and we will talk about the cat tree productions in a minute. The doghouse is probably the best. Yes, it takes long planks, and you get roughly a 1-to-1 output. So 90 long planks gives you 95. And the doghouse is selling for about 8,000. So you're gonna, again, you could sell your long planks for about 7,000. You can turn them into doghouses and make 8,000, and the price is rising, so it's going to be a little bit higher. So there's nothing so far that's standing out to me that says, hey, I'm going to get rich quick. There is no silver bullet. Well, let me take that back. So rather than buying these productions again, let's go back to what we looked at in the first video. Let's look at paper. Paper and cartons. Yes, it's divided by 2. So, well, we'll go to the carton roll. 400 wood gives you 200 carton rolls. 525 gives you 230 paper rolls. Paper rolls are selling at Elm Creek for 10,000. The only thing you really need is time and effort to transport your wood to the paper factory. That's a pretty good return on investment. The other one, and I can't emphasize this enough, is the iron ore factory. 150,000. I know it sounds expensive, but I've watched other YouTubers and I've confirmed the numbers myself. You make about, it's 10,000 for 1,000 liters. You can get your money back for the paper factory, for the iron ore furnace in about 3 months, and then it's pure profit. You are making in a month anywhere from 75,000 to 100,000 on the output, again depending on whether you're sending it to other productions. So this is your real gold mine. This, and I would say the paper factory. And then it goes back, like I said, it goes back to what are the best productions to start with, that whole video. I would have to say anything that requires wood as an input. So staircase railing, pepper grinders, and bowls. They all sell pretty well. $4,000 to $5,000. Again, your only input is time and effort. Bowls are a 1-to-1. The amount of wood you put in. So, I was just trying to do the math. I mean, on what tree is best. It all depends on what tree you're using. And we're going to take a look at what are the best trees, or give you the most wood in a later video. So where you should be focusing your harvesting. So, talking about the fly in the ointment, let's go back to the pet accessories factory. This is got to be, and I know this is supposed to be about the most profitable production, but this has got to be one of the worst productions. Cat tree houses. They require long planks and they require wool. Okay, so they require 100 wool and 90 long planks. That's a pretty steep input for, let's see what we get for a cat tree house. 10,000. That sounds pretty good, right? I can hear you saying, Jay, 10,000 for cat tree houses. Yes, people love their cats. But, like I said, there's a traffic jam in downtown. The fly in the ointment here is, again, wool. Where are you going to get it from? You can either, if you're on a PC, you can cheat it in. Most people are probably going to do that. Otherwise, you need, let's go to productions, animals, and a sheep farm. Your cheapest sheep farm at 25 sheep is 51,000. That's going to take a while to pay for itself. Because you need the sheep at 51,000, you need 25 sheep, I think they're only 2,000. There is no animal dealer on this map, so you also have to pay the transportation fee. Realistically, and do not look at the number because I have been tinkering with my sheep barn, but your large barn almost doubles in price, holds double the sheep, so you get double the wool. Then you also need a field where you can mow and you can get either grass or hay from. So yes, you have a small tractor, so then you need a mower and you need a baler to be able to feed those sheep. So all those costs start adding up. And like I said, to me, the cat tree house, yes, it's 10,000. But you can make 10,000 from the iron mine. One sheep barn, 57,000. Let's say another 10,000 in sheep, so 60, 70,000. Plus the cost of the animal production facility. Yeah, you're looking at the cost of the iron mill. And you're not even looking at the cost of at either the cost of buying your wood production from the southern sawmill or buying the northern sawmill and having it produce wood. So, the cat house is something I would avoid like the plague. Also remember, you have two options. Sheep produce wool, which also gets turned into fabric, and you need fabric for the boathouse. I have seen numerous people who have not even started yet. They've started their tours and they haven't even started on sheep production. It's gonna take a while for the sheep to produce enough wool for you to turn into fabric to get the boathouse going. The initial stage of the boathouse is very profitable, but there is no point in buying the boathouse if you are going to get stuck. Having said all of that, I guess this turned out to be one of the least profitable productions video instead of one of the most profitable productions. So either way, I might not have guided you to the most profitable. Hopefully I've given you an idea of what to avoid until you have a lot of money that you can invest. And then once you have that money, yeah, start looking at those productions, and they'll bring in a profit, just like the base game productions will bring in a profit. But there are those you want to avoid at the beginning, and then there are those that you want to take advantage of. I mean, Cake, and I'm going to use that as my closing argument. Cake was probably the most overrated base game production. Everybody was like, wow, I want to make Cake and or clothing. But if you, again, look at the inputs and the amount of time and effort you need to spend to be able to build up a big enough bank account, those were your two highest operating cost productions. Yes, they sold for the most amount of money, but they took a huge amount of inputs. I mean, Cake, you've got the milk, you got the eggs, you got the strawberries, you had all sorts of inputs. And like I said, going back to the clothing factory, you had your sheep to buy, or you could plant a field of cotton, but you still have to go through the spinnery. And then once you've gone through the spinnery, you had to go through the clothing factory, all of which you had to buy along the way. And don't forget, to harvest cotton, you needed an expensive harvester. Even leasing it is not cheap. So I hope you have, like I said, a better idea now of, I won't say what productions to avoid, because it's entirely up to you. It's fun. But this is just my advice. And for me, I'm sticking to the productions that require wood. After that, and metal, the metal furnace. After I've built up enough money, we're going to go from there. And then I'll probably invest in better forestry equipment. And then once I have good forestry equipment, I can produce a lot of wood, make a lot of money from the sawmill and the iron mill. Then I'll start looking at maybe things like the cat tree factory. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching, and again, happy anniversary to Giants on their 1-year anniversary of Farming Simulator 22 coming out on the market. Take care, Jay.